I quit. I quit the job that I desperately wanted for so long, after I realized a few things about money and what I truly wanted to do with my life. I had the highest salary that I had had in my entire life. I was making over $113,000 working from home as a senior SQL DBA for a well-known Fortune 500 company. I remember in college thinking that if I could one day just work my way into a six-figure salary, then I would be set for life. And honestly, I could not have been more wrong. So after I graduated from Eastern Kentucky University in 2013 with a bachelor's degree in CIS,
it is now my pleasure to say, go Colonels!
Like most new IT graduates, I got my first job as an entry-level tech support specialist, and I think I was making around $40,000 a year. For the next few years, I worked insanely hard, resolving more support tickets than anyone else on my team, and eventually I was able to work my way into a SQL DBA role that allowed me to be mentored by a senior level DBA. To this day, I still remember how life-changing that promotion felt, and honestly thinking that I could work for the same company for the next 30 years until it was time for me to retire. I just felt like all that hard work from college, those first few years of my job, I pushed myself so hard. I just felt like everything finally came together. I had made it, and I thought that was it for me. However, pretty soon after the promotion, something happened that completely changed my life forever. My mom lost a long and extremely tough battle with leukemia. My mom was one of the best people that I've ever known, and I genuinely mean that. She was kind, compassionate, caring, selfless, and that one person that I could always rely on when I needed help the most. When you lose someone like that special, it's the little things that you never forget. She used to come to my room every night, hug me, and tell me that she loved me. Even when I was a young college student still living at home, she always did that, and she always put us first, even above her own needs. She sacrificed so much for our family, and when you're that close to someone who's so selfless, you really don't realize how much they do for you or how much they care about you until they're gone. And the most devastating thing is honestly watching someone that you love with all your heart suffer and knowing that there's nothing you can do to help them. My mom will never get to meet my wife Bailey, who she would have absolutely loved, and she'll never get to meet our kids that we hope to have one day. And that's how I learned my first lesson. There's nothing more valuable or precious than time. Time is the most important thing in our lives that we can't create more of or get back. No matter how bad I want to, I can't get back the time I spent with my mom. There's no way to bring her back. It doesn't matter how many pictures I look at, home videos I watch, or voicemails that I listen to. There's absolutely no way to fill that empty void that's in my heart.
At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hi, Jhove, it's Mom. Just calling whenever you get off work. Bye. Love you.
Instead, I'm left with all the memories that we shared together and wondering what life would be like if she was still here. You see, most companies only care about the time you can give them. Once you stop giving them your time, you stop making money and you'll likely be replaced by someone who will. So I stayed in that first job or company after college for about 7 years, and it's honestly one of the best places to work in my local area. I had been freelancing and creating YouTube content as side hustles, and just simply outgrew my role with the company. However, at this point, I was still convinced that I needed a salary and all the benefits that come along with being a full-time employee. So I ended up leaving for a six-figure salary at a Fortune 500 company that allowed me to work from home full-time. In that job, we had a rotating on-call schedule for the members of our team, which meant that about 4 weeks out of the year, I was on call for an entire week. And it was so frustrating because a month out of the year, I was forced to be glued to my phone, ready to answer it and start working. I felt like I couldn't plan or really do anything. It was definitely all the little things I couldn't do anymore, which really started adding up and taking a mental and emotional toll on me. I couldn't go to the grocery store with my wife. I couldn't help her do anything. I couldn't work on our farm. I couldn't work on my YouTube channel. I couldn't really plan or do anything during those 4 weeks because I had to be glued to my phone and ready to start working. One of the turning points that really pushed me to think about quitting was getting scheduled for on-call during the week of Christmas. My family lives about 2 hours away from me in the country with terrible cell service, and because of my on-call schedule, I was going to be forced to miss spending the holidays with my family. My grandparents are both in their 80s, and I really want to enjoy the holidays that I have left with them. and the on-call schedule, that's definitely not worth sacrificing those precious moments. So after working around 70 hours during a week of on-call and feeling extremely frustrated, I told my wife that I wanted to go full-time on freelancing and YouTube after my stock options vested. Basically, I got my bonus last year in stock, so if I would have quit before September of this year, then I would have been throwing away thousands of dollars. I didn't want to spend the next 30 years of my life feeling stressed and anxious, just hoping that I could live long enough to retire in my 60s with my 401k. I want to enjoy life right now with the people who I love most, because this moment, right now, that's what really matters. None of us know what's going to happen in the future. Right now is always the best time. You've probably heard the saying, the best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago, and the second best time is now. I made the decision to start doing what I love every day, which will give me back more time, rather than giving over 2,000 hours a year to a company where I would most likely be forgotten within the next year or two. If you're someone who constantly battles imposter syndrome, or feels like you're lucky to have your current job and you shouldn't try to leave that, then you'll be happy to know that's how most of us feel. However, most of us get the typical 1 to 3% raise per year, which often doesn't cover inflation. So in reality, some years you're not actually getting a raise. And the reason for that is we've been conditioned to believe that we are worth what our managers or executives tell us we're worth. And that led me to learning my second lesson, that most 9-to-5 companies will never pay you enough to escape, just enough that they can keep you coming back to work. And there was a couple of really eye-opening times in my life that made me realize this. The first one was during college in my senior year. I started applying for a bunch of jobs and was actually able to land a few interviews. I remember I got to my first interview probably an hour early, rehearsed example interview questions in my car numerous times, and just tried to calm myself down so I wouldn't look like some inexperienced, nervous kid during my interview. I built up the courage, finally went inside, and the interview was actually going great. Then something happened that will be burned into my mind forever. The CIO, or Chief Information Officer, comes in and starts talking about pay. So on my application, I had to put down what salary that I was looking for. I put down $40,000 because, as a 22-year-old college student making $10 an hour at my IT internship, I wanted to make a little bit more than my total student loan debt, which was $30,000 at the time. I thought if I could start off with my salary being a little bit higher than my student loan debt, then I was okay with that. Then the CIO, the Chief Information Officer, the top level of an IT department, stared intensely into my eyes, and I will never forget this. He said, "When I saw your salary requirements, I wanted to throw your resume out. It made me sick to my stomach, but my hiring manager convinced me not to." He said there's no way that any company is going to be willing to pay you $40,000 for a tech support position right out of college. I was devastated, to say the least, and he honestly made me feel like an idiot. I got through the rest of that interview, went out to my car, and I just sat there wondering if I was going to be in student loan debt for the rest of my life. About a week later, I get a call from them offering me the job at, no joke, $12 an hour, which is just under $25,000 a year. So I turned down the offer, and when the hiring manager asked me why, I told her that the pay was way too low. She then asked me if she could have some time to go talk to the CIO. I told her thank you, but no. He made it clear that I'm not worth what I asked for. I had 2 other interviews the next week. They both went amazing, and I was offered a starting salary of $40,000 at both places. I remember wanting to email that CIO so I could tell him how wrong he was about me, but I realized that wouldn't accomplish anything. And the first significant raise in my career came from leveraging another job offer. I worked insanely hard at this company. I was one of the top performers on my team, but my salary was only increasing about 2% each year. To finally receive the pay that I wanted, the pay that I worked so hard for, I had to interview at other places and then leverage one of the offers I received. I remember at the end of each year, I would go to my performance review and hear the same things. "You're doing great, you're a great asset to the team, we really appreciate everything you do," but I was still handed that same 1 to 3% company-based salary increase. And honestly, I definitely believe that a lot of managers just don't realize that type of raise barely covers inflation, or sometimes doesn't cover it. I just feel like it's not talked about enough. It didn't matter how hard I worked, how much overtime I put in, or how little I asked off work. I was completely in the hands of the company and what they told me I was worth. I reached a point where the 9-to-5 grind was mentally draining me every single day. The pointless meetings, constant interruptions, and I started questioning the impact that I was making with my life. So I ended up at a fork in the road where I could continue going down the safe path with my 6-figure salary, benefit package, and 401k, or I could decide to go all in on what I love doing, which is helping people escape the 9-to-5 by becoming high-earning freelancers and also sharing my knowledge of personal finance. Because it doesn't matter how much money you make if you don't know how to make it work for you. My third lesson was my most important lesson, and it's what pushed me to come up with a plan that would allow me to go all in on YouTube and freelancing. Your impact is limited when you work for someone else. Now, this took me a long time to accept, but no matter how hard you work, there's only 24 hours in a day. And I got to a point where the time I was giving to my full-time 9-to-5 job really started holding me back from creating YouTube content and freelancing. When I was on call, I didn't have time to create new videos, and I had to limit the freelance work that I was doing in evenings as well. I always found myself wondering, what if I was putting this time into my business? What if I was creating a new video right now that could help people all around the world? The truth is, my impact is very minimal at a large Fortune 500 company. After leaving, they would simply take my work and throw it onto the plate of other team members, or they would hire a new SQL DBA. Everyone is replaceable, and even if I left, they're going to keep making money and their business is going to keep going on. Then for a while, people will be like, you know that guy that used to work here, he worked on these databases, and that'll keep going on. After some time, people will come and go, and then eventually no one knows that you ever worked there. You're just a forgotten number in a system that's completely gone. The potential impact of me deciding to go all in on my business far exceeds my impact working at a single company. Honestly, since as early as I could remember, I've just always enjoyed helping and teaching people. It's something that gives me purpose and makes me feel like I'm leaving a positive impact on the world. That's why I always do my best to reply to every YouTube comment, every Instagram DM, and just always be willing to help. I knew deep down that if I really wanted to make a difference and leave the positive impact on the world that I was proud of, then I had to give up my 9-to-5 job, 6-figure salary, benefits, and just all the job security, safety, that feeling. I had to give it up and I had to take the chance. Because if I can help just one person change their life, be able to do what they love every single day, free up more of their time so they can enjoy life, or simply make more money to live financially free, then I've made a positive impact. So if you're thinking about quitting your job, when should you do it? The answer is simple: when you can afford to. If you have a 9-to-5 job, find something that you love doing, figure out how you can monetize it, and start working on it every single day. I don't recommend quitting your job without a solid plan in place or other income sources. I know you've probably heard the saying, if you fail to plan, then you're planning to fail. So how did I do it? I saved over 6 months worth of expenses so that if my freelance work or YouTube channel struggled, I would still be able to pay all my bills. I invested a lot of my extra money in great long-term investments like index funds and ETFs, and even built a pretty large crypto portfolio as well. And on top of all that, I have my 401k from my previous jobs that has a little over $100,000 in it. You see, I didn't quit without a plan. I have a lot to fall back on if worst case scenarios happen. I would never risk losing my farm or putting my wife in a bad financial situation. I put in so much time outside my 9-to-5 for years just to be in this situation. Freelancing and creating YouTube content until 2 to 3 a.m. almost every single day. It's gonna take time, but trust me, it's more than worth it. The feeling of freedom that I wake up with every single day really cannot be explained in words. It's everything that I've ever wanted, and I hope this video will help lead you in the best direction for you. Deep down, I knew that if I didn't go after my goals and dreams, I would be filled with tons of regret later in life. Regret is a scary thing, and it will haunt you until your time on earth is over. And when you're old and you're looking back on life, the one thing you can't get back is time. So starting today, I want you to audit how you're spending your time and think, when I look back later in life, will I be happy with how I spent my time?